Hey, Be It listener, how are you? Have you ever had a plan not go as planned? I guess that's not really the thing. Like, have you ever had something not go as planned? There it is. Yeah, me too. I think that's actually how plans go. I'm becoming more increasingly convinced that plans are only meant to be like the compass that gets you started, and then the rest is kind of a figure it out as you go. And that's the hard part, because we all want certainty, and we all really want to know that, like, if I do this, and this is going to happen. And the more people I interview, the more I am noticing a strong theme, and that A, things don't go the way we expect, and B, every time something is happening, it is happening for you, and it's setting you off on this track and this journey that you are meant to be on. And I'm so grateful that our next guest cross paths into our paths cross, because he is super cool. I really like him. I think Brad and I will be friends with him for hopefully a long time, because he is just an inspiration, and he shares so passionately and authentically his story, and I really believe that you can learn so much from it. So when you'll hear in the interview, but this is a person whose plan A didn't go, and then plan B didn't go. And of course you get down and depressed, and you find yourself doing a job. You're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And that's the thing. That's the thing that actually makes you shine a little differently, shine a little brighter, become something that somebody else pays attention to. And it completely changes the trajectory of your life. And so please don't underestimate the crazy, weird jobs you've ever had to do, or the experiences you've ever had, because those experiences, those weird jobs, those weird skill sets literally might be the reason and the thing someone is looking for to hire you, or to bring you onto their show, or to have you speak in front of their audience. Those are the things. Too often we're looking for the degrees or the certifications, or some sort of title with letters after it that we think is going to be why someone picks us. But it could literally be the weird thing you did one summer. And so stop underestimating yourself. Give yourself some time to write down all the things you've ever done, and think about it as you listen to this interview with John, because I think it's really powerful. And I'm really excited for you to hear from him how he became a rocket scientist, and now he is a really well sought after photographer. And I can't wait to work with him. So that's going to happen. I'm putting it on my list for this year. All right. So let me know how this interview impacts your life. Please let John and I know. Tag us on Instagram. Share this with people that need to hear it. And here he is.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
All right, my loves, I have John Mollura with us. I didn't say your name right. John Mollura. How do you
got
say
it?
John Mollura?
Just like you said it, Mollura. Yeah.
I do this all the time. I 100% check names. I'm like, oh, I know his name. We're good. And then I'm like, did I say it right? It's my own thing. Everyone, we have John Mollura here, and I am so excited. From literal rock star to incredible photographer, and he has an amazing story. And I'm just so happy our paths crossed. I really have to say, I put out a thing like, hey, I'm looking for this, and you put yourself up there. And then when you're like, oh, here's the topic that I'm going to talk about, it made me laugh, because I'm like, how on earth could you talk about imposter syndrome when you had no imposter syndrome with saying, hey, I'm the person you should talk to. So John, thank you for being here on this podcast. I really am excited to talk about all the things that you rock at. Can you please tell everyone a little bit about how you became a rocket scientist to a photographer? It's not exactly like the linear plan that I think people would expect.
Well, the key was I didn't really have any life plan, and that's something that I've just kind of done. So exhibit A is, the podcast. Like even though I wrestled with imposter syndrome and, pretty severe anxiety a lot of my life, I just always had that pioneer spirit, if you will, where I would I'd rather be, on the tip of the spear, the first person going in, because I get bored so easy. And I'd rather just put myself out there and just try something.
Yeah.
And with risk being, just bored and static. So
you're saying you could never have just worked behind a cubicle doing the same thing every day.
That lasted 9 months.
Oh, hey, that's longer than I think I lasted when somebody tried to do. I was like, I don't think I'm really good at this.
Yeah. That came right at the end where I jumped ship on corporate world after 16 years and started doing photography full time. But backing up, so I used to be a literal rocket scientist. I led test missions for NASA and the Department of Defense, from Antarctica on projects to England to, garden spots like, Sandusky, Ohio in February. So it was literally all over the map. And the way I fell into that job was my buddies and I were, sitting around Penn State senior year, probably at some wing and beer night. And a call came for people to interview for the company I made the spacesuit for NASA. And I said, I'm going to,
Wait, hold on. I'm so sorry. You're just having wings and beer. And they're like, hey, there's this job to work for NASA. Were you qualified for this?
Oh, I felt I wasn't, because although I did okay in school. School never came real easy for me. And engineering school, for those of you that are familiar with, is an absolute grind. Whenever we sat in our freshman orientation, they said, look to the person to the left of you and the person to your right, and they're going to wash out in the next 4 years.
What a
One
pep
of you,
talk.
two of you, three. Yeah. I mean, it was like signing up for, buds with the Navy SEALs. It's like pretty much all of you are not going to be able to make it. So good luck.
Okay. So here's what I can tell you. Absolutely very few people listen to this podcast probably are familiar with engineering schools.
Right.
I don't know. No offense to the ones who are. So you did go to engineering school.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're having the wings and beers night. And then you see that there's this job with this company who made the NASA outfits.
Yeah. The spacesuits, since the Apollo days.
The real thing.
Yeah. The real deal. Yeah. Not the stuff, for a sound stage, like the stuff they actually put on the rocket and, allegedly landed on the moon with, depending which side of the fence you fall on with that debate. But so I sent my resume in as a joke, thinking there's no way this company's ever going to want to hire me. And sure enough, they did. They wanted to do a phone interview. This is back in the late 90s. So there was no FaceTime, no Zoom. I was, sitting on my shared landline in my fraternity house. And, there were some guys probably smoking weed next door. I'm sitting there on a phone interview talking to
NASA.
Guys make space. Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah. No big deal. And I was interviewing to be a project manager, which I had no clue what that would be. And knowing what I know now, that would have been an awful fit. I would have been terrible at that. And the summer before I applied, when I was, I think, a junior in school, I taught rock climbing for the Boy Scouts, because I was all lined up, to go do an internship at Disney, the Disney. And I lost it to another person. It was me and one other person, and I lost it.
Ugh.
And and it was late April. This is also a recurring thing with me. I don't really have a plan B a lot of times.
Right. It doesn't, it's also kind of, no offense, doesn't really sound like there's an A either. It's kind of.
I just Forrest Gump my way through life.
Yes, I'm loving it.
I totally just.
I wish I could do that. I am I need an A, a B. 27 letters later, I would like another.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, not my thing. My wife and I always joke. It's there's two types of people in the relationship. There's the person that says, all right, I got the passport, I got the boarding pass, I got the hotel reservations and the rental car reservations. And then the other person in the relationship's where are we going?
Oh my God. You know, what's really funny is up until this moment, like I was like, oh yeah. Like Brad is like kind of that person. He's like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I'm going to sign up. Like he'll get bored doing the same thing all the time. But when it comes to travel, he has our passports. He has a Dropbox folder of all of our visas. He has all the things. And I'm like, so where are we going right now? So anyways, okay. So you're teaching rock climbing for Boy Scouts.
Yeah. That was the summer before the infamous Wings and Beer night, where we decided to apply to, work on, critical life-saving equipment. But I put that on my resume because I got that job after the whole Disney thing fell through. My fraternity brother walked in the room and Bill said, "Hey, you all right, man?" And I'm like, "No, I'm pretty far from okay right now, dude." Told him what happened. He goes, "Well, you're outdoorsy. You want to work at a scout camp?" I'm like, I was never a Boy Scout. I didn't wear goofy green shorts and run around the woods. He's like, "All right, well, don't say things like that, but we could hire you." So I worked with the maintenance crew, like until like I could do my assigned job, which was I was supposed to be a water sports director. And I, once again, I was like, I don't know how to sail or do anything. I can swim. That's about it. They're like, "We'll train you." I'm like, "All right, cool. You'll train me, whatever." But up until like training, like there was like a 6-week gap, and I worked with the maintenance crews, and I had like zero like trade skills. So I was the guy just like schlepping the chainsaws through the woods, and when the septic drainage truck would need something, like I'd run out there stuff. And the crescendo of my glamorous jobs was when we got the cabins readied for the people to come in. They've been uninhabited in the Catskills for like 9 months. Well, a lot of mice apparently would like try to get water in the toilets and like fall in the toilet. Yeah, the look on your face says it all. So my job was I got to pull the dead mice out of the toilets that had like sunk. that was my job.
Oh my God. So that's what NASA, you put that on your resume there?
Well, not yet. I didn't put that on there, but which, unfortunately those kind of skills did come in handy down the road in my career. So here I am doing this job and I'm like, this sucks. Like I didn't sign up for this, but whatever. I have no options. And I thought maybe it was just karma, since Mickey Mouse, like, dissed me, like now I'm pulling like dead mice out of the toilet. So anywho, so I'm getting ready. I'm psyched. Like I'm counting down the days to go to training. They're going to teach me how to like teach people to water ski and all this cool stuff. I'm like, awesome. And I'm like sitting in the middle of some like field, like scrubbing rust off a propane tank that's like leaking next to me. And I'm thinking, this sucks, but one more day. And they came up, the directors came up and they're like, "Hey, John, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm good. Training. I'm leaving for training tomorrow." They're like, "Hey, yeah, about that. We just got the call from the person that was here for the past 2 years and they want their old job back. So we don't have to pay to train you anymore." And I'm like, oh God.
So they're like, "You're fired, but we're happy because we have something."
Oh, no. Okay. I wasn't fired. I impressed the maintenance crew so much
that they wanted to keep you
on. They wanted to
keep
me on there. And I'm thinking, oh my God. All right. Well, okay.
How many more cats and toilets are there?
Yeah. Right. How many more propane tanks am I going to have to scrub? And so they're like, or, you could be assistant director of rock climbing. I'm like, I'll do it. They're like, "Do you want to hear what it is?" I'm like, "I don't know how to rock. I don't care. I'm not that scared of heights. I'll do it. Will you train me how to do it?" They're like, "Yeah, we'll send you to training." I'm like, my bag's already packed. Like, all right, I'm out of here, man. So it ended up being a great fit. I worked with a great crew. I supervised like, I think over 700 scouts rappelling and rock climbing on like natural cliffs. We weren't in like a gym. We were like outside with like the turkey buzzards. Yeah. This is like,
like real stuff.
Like real deal. Yeah. Like the rocks like falling down, like kind of stuff.
That's crazy. So that's what was on your resume.
That's what was on my resume. Director of rock climbing.
Oh, crazy. I wonder, you know what? Probably if you had Disney on there, they'd be like, another Disney kid. Like,
yeah, right.
They probably wouldn't have been as impressed.
This is Christina Aguilera's boyfriend, whatever. Is that Timberlake guy trying to get a job again? But so I put that on my resume because I thought, it showed I had some practical experience. I had other engineering type stuff. And they said, "What's this about rock climbing?" I gave my little spiel and they said, "Hang on a second. Someone just walked by. We want you to talk to." And like, they put me on mute and I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And this nasally voice came on the phone again, no video, back in the 90s. This nasally voice goes, "Hey, what do you think about rock climbing on Mars?" And I just knee-jerk reaction said, "Are you going to pay my airfare?"
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, I just blew it, just being a smart ass. And this dude, who I had no idea who he was, he hadn't been in the interview. He goes, "Get him down here." And they're like, "All right, well, we're going to arrange an on-site visit." And it was like an 8-hour drive from where I went to school in Pennsylvania. And I come down here, and lo and behold, that like mystery person that jumped on at the last minute was like the lead test engineer for like Mars landers. And he was a former Air Force special operations guy and tested fighter jets. And he and I just like hit it off like a ball of fire. He said, "I don't need the smartest person in the room." I'm like, "Good, because you didn't get him." He's like, "I need someone I can send out into the field."
And you're like, actually super good. I can scrub rust off a propane. Did you know that?
Propane tank, and you need dead mice. I'm also your guy for that.
Do you have that on Mars? Don't worry. I've been there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we terraform Mars. I'll be able to take care of all the plumbing issues. But so he said, you're not being confined to an office, being some project manager. So for the next like 7 years, like Skip and I just went all over the world. He was my mentor. His name was Skip Wilson. And we just did some pretty radical shit all over the world.
So here's what's so crazy. I hope y'all just heard that. You could have easily been like, "Oh, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I'm not qualified enough." Like, I think so many people do not put their name in the hat for things because they pre-reject themselves. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you were probably like you said, half joking or like, whatever, let's just like, it's a game. Let's see what happens. But oftentimes people are not looking for the most qualified, perfect scored, most well-trained they're looking for someone who they can get along with, that they want to travel that will get their hands dirty and like actually just try and not assume that they know the answer. I think that is really a cool story.
Yeah. So I did that. I said, I did Skip for the next 7-8 years. We sadly lost him to cancer in mid 2011, which really, I didn't realize how much it affected me, but it really affected me because he and I were one of the few that did what we did in our country and also in the world. So it really left a hole, like kind of like not having that like fallback position, even though I was in charge and I would lead a bunch of stuff, it was always nice to kind of like be like, "Hey, Skip," or like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think of this?" Yeah. So that was what I did. And I stayed at that company until 2016. And by that point, like I'd been there over 15 years. So the leadership had changed. It had become a very much profit-driven company because the company, they got bought by venture capitalists and that old chestnut.
I just actually heard, I was on the Daily podcast, not a sponsor of the show, everyone, but they literally explain in layman's terms about like VCs and how like these, like they're taking over like your vets and your dentists and your all these things. And I'm like, oh my God. But anyways,
it's crazy.
That's another podcast, not ours.
Yeah.
So go listen to that one if you actually want to understand how that works. Okay. So you're in this job for 15 years. That is an insane, like, let me just see how this goes, journey. Obviously it wasn't as exciting at work, or they were having goals that were outside of what yours were. How did you end up in your next thing? Were you dabbling in photography while you were doing this? How did that go?
Yeah, I had always done photography as a hobby. I think I got my first camera when I was like 7. So it was back in the mid 80s. So like I learned to shoot on film. And I was actually just looking through the first travel album I ever did after I got a quote real camera. Got my first Nikon with my daughter today. And she's like, "Why are these pictures so weird?" I'm like, "Well, it's because they were on film." And I just had to kind of...
Why are these pictures not moving themselves?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But no, photography had always been a hobby. And like I said, I got to go to some very awesome places in my tenure as an engineer all across. And I just threw my camera in the bag. Mm-hmm. And, I'd have my little Walter Mitty fantasies when I'd be out, working on some engineering job, pretending like National Geographic had just sent me to Antarctica instead. And
okay, that is being it till you see it. You're like, I'm taking pictures, and they don't like for National Geographic right now.
Yeah. So because that's like one of the big dreams, like, for
Mm-hmm.
photographers, like that's like the gold standard. And I remember I was reading a National Geographic once, because that's actually what kindled my love of like photography and like travel and wanderlust. It was a episode I saw on my grandparents' table, and it was about Mount Vesuvius. Like back in the 80s, they had like a article. I could still see it, and that's what sparked my wanderlust. And National Geographic, other than just kind of being like the gold standard of photographers, holds a special place in my heart, because that's really what kindled my wanderlust. And I remember reading an episode or a issue of National Geographic probably 10, 15 years ago. And they had the statistics of like the chance of like having National Geographic like even look at your photo, and let alone getting published. And they're like, look, for an issue, like the photographers that we send out, they shoot like umpteen tens of thousands of pictures. We get this many pictures just sent to us. This many pictures make it to the like final edit. But like, it came down to these statistics that were like just insane.
Like less than 1% of a percent.
Right.
Yeah.
So I, of course, tore that out.
Yeah.
And put it on my little vision board. And I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, as you know, from the May the 4th, thing we did together this year.
Yeah.
Han Solo is always like, just like like such an icon to me, because he just had that swashbuckling, like self-confidence that I really didn't have. Like I might like jump in and do things, but like I mentioned, like imposter syndrome and anxiety and stuff were like things that like traveled with me throughout my life. So like Han Solo was always like the dude, it's like, man, if I could just be like that and have that confidence in my abilities, like that would be so awesome. So I printed out this picture of Han Solo, and it just said one of his famous quotes from one of the movies, "Never tell me the odds." Like he was doing some like thing where like there was like zero chance of success, and he's like, "Don't tell me the odds. I'm just going to do it."
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah. Never tell me the odds of success or failure, because I'm just going to do it. It's not going to change my effort. So I took that and like pinned it over top of the National Geographic thing.
Yes.
And it was always like right next to my thing. And in 2016, I got notified that National Geographic was featuring one of my photos in their Your Shot program. It was like they selected 12 photos a day to feature, and mine was one of them.
Shut up. That is insane. Yep. Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh
so I had that above my thing, like looking like at these like insane odds. But then, Han Solo always reminding me, don't worry about the odds, just do it.
That is amazing. And also, Brad's going to nerd the hell out about this right now. Like I know that he's listening right now. He's like chuckling because first of all, Star Wars, yes. National Geographic, yes. Like, and there's this like common theme. You said like you're like a pioneer, and I know very little about Star Wars. Everyone, it's okay. We clearly know this by now. I don't think I can get away with it. But what I do know about Han Solo is he is like that pioneer. He's like just gonna like he is like he doesn't need to see the map. He's just gonna go do it. And so I feel like you've had some really good like spirit animals in your life guiding you into like, okay, I'm gonna be like Han Solo right now. I'm just gonna go do it anyways. That is so cool. So this is amazing because I think again going back to like people thinking like life gets really linear. It wasn't like you're like, okay, I'm a rocket scientist and then I'm a photographer. Like you were organically allowing one to still happen while you were doing this other thing. And I think that is really cool. We don't have to just be one thing, and we don't have to just only we don't have to wait our turn for this thing to happen. Okay. That's amazing. So when did that happen? When were you in National Geographic?
That was in 2016.
Okay. About the same time that you were leaving.
It was right after I left my job that I'd been at 15 and a half years. And I'd been doing photography as a side hustle for a number of years, like getting paid for it. But what self-respecting father of three that lives in rural Southern Delaware would like leave this 6-figure job to be a photographer? So I didn't leave the job I was at and go straight to a photographer. I went to another engineering company where I got paid even more money, and like they'd fly me like first class to like Shanghai for these like meetings, and
Okay,
was
so
so
that's a harder
miserable.
thing to give up. I'm just going to be real. First
Yeah,
class to
it was.
Shanghai, that's a little hard to give up.
Yeah. If you're going to be first class anywhere, like don't be first class from like New York to Miami. Be it on like a day long flight.
Yes.
But that job was like a desk. It was a desk job, and I was so unhappy in my previous job just because I had a lot of personal change going on, that led up to that. But, I just felt this, responsibility to my family where like I couldn't do that. I couldn't be a photographer full time because there's no way you can make anywhere close, all these stories. And the author John Acuff that I love called them noble obstacles.
Oh, I love John Acuff, and that's
Yeah.
noble obstacles. Interesting. I also think it's interesting, like you said, a couple stories, like what self-respecting father of 3 would like leave this job to go do this. And then like, these things. And I know people listening, a lot of them are saying the same things to themselves right now. Maybe not that sentence, but like there's a story that's keeping them from doing the next thing because of like what other people will think, or like how that's a crazy idea. And like, because we've not necessarily seen it, maybe didn't see Han Solo do it yet. Like it's kind of hard to imagine that it could be a possibility. So what was the impetus? How did you leave that job? How did you get over that?
I had someone that was a mentor to me for a number of years in photography, and she was also a coach, and she invited me to a networking event because my thing was I knew I had skills in photography, but I didn't know how to sell it or market it or how to like even get in front of people. And she invited me to a networking event, and I'm like, oh my God, there's actually like ways to make this happen. So I came home and was talking with my wife about it, and she's like, you're miserable, dude. Like, she's like, your skin has like the pallor of like a wet ashtray. Like,
I like that she keeps
crap.
it real.
She'd been living this for years with me, like, as my job just wasn't satisfying it. So I turned in my resignation in the spring of 2017, which was over 5 years ago, and went and became a full-time photographer. And even that's evolved over the past 5 years into what I currently do, which is portraits. Yeah.
Okay. So, I love this story because, since it's honest, but also like, it's not predictable, but it's completely like something every single one of us have a story like this. And we get caught up that like, it has to be a certain way. Oh, I have to do this. And when I'll have this. And I just like that you kind of followed your passion. And even when you didn't, you had people around you who like shined a little flashlight on possibility. And there's this like constant theme. You have a mentor and you have people around you who are like who are being honest with you about who you are. And I think a lot of us don't have, like, a lot of us pull ourselves back. We hide. We like don't want to be like fully seen because we want people to necessarily know like the mistakes we make or like the thoughts we're having. But actually, you having a mentor and a coach and your wife and you're like, they were the ones that kind of guided you to where to go next. And so it's just really cool because we don't have to do it on our own.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest suggestions I always give people when they say, how do you make a living, like a good living as a photographer? I say, I hire people that have been down that path before me. They're like, "Ooh, that sounds expensive." I said, well, it's not inexpensive, but the paybacks monetarily are easy to quantify, but also just giving you that confidence that, oh, these people have been down that path is worth a lot.
Yeah, that's actually, and that's the thing that most people skip. They're like, and I get that everyone has bills and everyone has a different budget and there's all these things. But I agree. Like, I would not be where I am today had I not hired people who had gone through what I wanted to be through. They knew the what it took to get to the next level because they are left that level. So I think it is not the easiest decision to invest in yourself, but you have if you don't, you don't even get to stay where you were. You go backwards because you're going to feel stuck, miserable. And also the world keeps going forward. Like that's the energy. You're a rocket scientist. I don't tell you that. You know how energy works. So
Physics is a cruel mistress. Physics is very cruel.
Yeah, I actually, I'll be really honest. I changed my major. Yes, I lost feeling in my fingers, which is one of the reasons why I changed my athletic training major. The other reason is I was like, physics? Why the hell do I have to do that? No, we're not doing that. So I was like, what science classes does a communications major have to do? Great. The math class, I was like, statistics, like, nope, I don't want to do that. What's the other? Like, what major gets me out of algebra? I'm going to hire someone to do the math. It's fine. Anyways, okay, we've talked about it a couple times, and I just want to touch on a little bit because you've mentioned you had anxiety, you've had imposter syndrome. I know a lot of our listeners struggle with either one or the other or both. And how has that been? Because I'm sure like having anxiety and also like being a parent and being a partner and being someone who's like making these major changes and now it's a photographer, how did you get over, like, what was that? How did you move past that with everything going on?
It goes back to the same way I did it in my business, was working with therapists, coaches, people that even just a trusted person. But therapy was super important. And that was one of the hardest decisions for me to make because, one of my traumas from growing up was, I had to become like very self-sufficient. I just had this, and it still crops up. I'm one of those fools that sometimes will be like, "You need help with that, John?" Nope. It's just awkward, when really like I like through other people to help me.
Yeah.
But being aware of that, because there's no quick fix, especially with it. Well, with anything with your health, mental or physical. Just because you eat a salad one day doesn't mean you're going to drop 15 pounds. Right. It's putting in the reps and doing it. And it's the same with your mental health. Once, I got some tools from a therapist and, took medication for a while, just as she put it in vernacular, I could understand when I was an engineer, like, this is just another tool in your tool chest, John. This doesn't mean anything. It's just another tool. So, acquiring those skills and doing some very honest self-reflection and realizing when things come up and, looking for patterns maybe, and those things and just having the desire to get better, was huge. And, it's not perfect. Not every day is sunshine and rainbows. And, but it's not about having everything be perfect. It's about how do you respond when it's not perfect?
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a great question. That's also like something to think about on a good day. So you have an answer for when on a bad day, you're like, what am I supposed to do right now? You're like, oh, actually on a day that I was feeling good about life, I wrote down a game plan for myself. I think, it's there more and more, it's easier for people to talk about mental health and anxiety. And I do love that, but we do have so much more work to do because I think so many people look at others and for better or worse, social media is always going to show the good stuff, just is. And we then put on it, oh, they must not suffer from imposter syndrome, anxiety, or any other things. And it's like, no, it's just that they just didn't post about it on that day. They, like that doesn't mean that like they don't struggle with the same things. And so the more we all can be aware that everyone is going through it at some point, that makes it easier. And then I love what you said, like you had to decide that like you wanted it to be better, like you wanted to do something. And I think that's a tough decision to make, but also believe that it could. So good for you. And also thank you for sharing that. I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag because when this is up, it should be hopefully ready. You came into Agency to talk about imposter syndrome. Agency is our group coaching program. And literally after it was over, people were like, I need to buy that. I need to rewatch that. Oh my God, I can't believe I missed that. And it's this interesting topic because I feel like more and more and more people will say, I have imposter syndrome. I have imposter syndrome. It's kind of like a catch-all title. But when you broke it down, you explained a lot of things, and you know, everyone can go watch the course, but can you talk about why you got excited about this topic? Like, what made you investigate it? What made you go, oh, I want to explore this and also teach people about it? What was that?
I don't want people to, suffer like I did. And I didn't even know what imposter syndrome was for a very long time. And just being able to put a name to something, especially things that are troubling you, already gives you some power over that. So I really wanted to educate people on what imposter syndrome is. If anyone's listening to this, and, a real quick check to see if you've ever had imposter syndrome, if that's a term you've never heard before, is how do you respond when someone gives you a compliment? Do you like genuinely say, oh, thank you very much, I'm so glad that, that spoke to you, and feel good about yourself? Or like, do you kind of get like these like weird feelings in your stomach and maybe do some poorly delivered attempt at self-deprecating humor, like, oh, you like that song I wrote? Oh, you should probably get your hearing checked. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Those are how imposter syndrome manifests. And I really just wanted people to understand how that is, because if you look at my resume, my professional record on paper, engineering or photography wise, NASA, Department of Defense commendations, National Geographic features, like, it sounds like I got it all together. But a defining moment in my life was I remember getting a commendation letter from the Department of Defense for a project I led. And I thought, I'm up on this stage so everyone can actually point their fingers at me and be like, see, we knew you were full of crap and you're actually not supposed to be here. And I remember like almost being in tears when I got the letter. And like, that's like one of those core memories that I have. So whenever the opportunity came up to speak about imposter syndrome, I'm like, I don't want people to feel like that. Or if they do feel like that, I want to teach them, provide them some resources that they can use to move past that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, well, I think anyone listening is like, oh my God, I can't believe that's how he felt when something amazing was happening. And yet I bet if we ask all of them, like, they would have, they could think of a time when an amazing thing happened and they were letting their imposter syndrome tell them that it wasn't as amazing and that they didn't deserve this, or somebody got it wrong. I loved it. I love how you explained it. I loved everything you had to say. Our members loved it. And so everybody, we will definitely put in the show notes how you can watch this amazing course from John, because I want to help you make sure that no one else has to suffer through that too. I think it is really important. It's really incredible. It's also what so many of our listeners are suffering from, and it's holding them back. And the whole point of this whole podcast is that I just know that every single person here listening to this has something that they're meant to do. And I cannot be imposter syndrome or the feeling that they're not good enough, which is the exact same thing. So I'm being redundant, but it cannot be that. That cannot be the reason that they don't do it. Like, other reasons, sure. That one, no, because that one is something that together as a world, I think we can really combat, and we can work on that. So John, thank you for being you. Okay, we're going to take a brief break. And then we're going to find out how people can get their picture taken by you, find you, follow you, all that stuff. All right, John, where do you hang out? Where are you on the socials? Where do people get to know more about you?
Well, literally, I hang out in my car a lot, shuttling my 3 kids to various things. But when I am not doing that, they can track me down on social media. There's not a lot of John Molluras out there. So just John Mollura Photography, Mollura. And my website's Mollura Photo. You can see samples of my work on there. And if, like I said, I do portraits. I specialize in people, and we're not talking about like the white, backgrounds of J.C. Penney's days of yore. I really like to create empowering photos of people because, how awesome does it feel to look at a really good photo of yourself, whether it's a selfie or someone took it and they just happened to catch you right? Like that makes you feel so good. And
you are so correct. I'm sorry to interrupt. You're so correct. A couple episodes back, y'all, my friend Claire asked me about like how I get ready for photo sessions. And I have to say many of the photo sessions, in fact, one of the best photo sessions I had recently, I was not having a good day when the photo shoot was supposed to happen. I'm like, I can't believe we're doing a photo shoot today. I'm like having imposter syndrome, all this stuff. And yet when you have a photographer like you who like, first of all, loves what they're doing and does it really well. But when they capture that photo of you in this portrait, you're like, oh, I may feel like this, but that's who I am.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And so one of the things I love to do is remove as much stress from the whole situation as possible. That goes from like, initial consults, but then like going to their homes and like helping them pick their wardrobe.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You are
right.
in it. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then day of the shoot, there's always professional hair and makeup offered for folks so they can just show up and not worry if it's raining outside and what happens to my hair. No, you can just sit in Kelly's chair and she'll take care of it. I'll get you a glass of wine or a, tea or whatever you want. Do the photo shoot where I guide people through all the poses because it was at Talladega Nights, that it's like, what do I do with my hands? Just put your hands down, Ricky. So I tell people what to do with their hands, but then even afterwards, I help them pick the photos and then they're all professionally retouched. So, it's showing people in like very true to them. I don't make people look fake and like some plastic Barbie, but let's face it, like the high-end digital cameras that we use, like they capture a lot of details that like don't need to be captured that you don't really see. But then even helping them with because like you said, with photos, when you see a photo that makes you feel really good, but I'm a firm believer in like the power of like a physical product. So every photo people select, they always get a print of it, 5x7, it's matted. I mail it to them, the thank you note, but then I offer like heirloom quality, like wall art. Like I'll come to their house, I install it. So it's like start to finish, like,
God,
how much stress can I remove from you and have this actually be what it is, which is showcasing the world, the true you. And more importantly, some people are like, what am I going to do with like 15 photos of myself, John? I'm like, put them in the nice little gift box I give you. And then when you're having and keep like one of them out, have some boss ass photo of you hanging up in like your bedroom or your closet. If you don't want the world to see it. And when you're having those bad days, like you were having, like how awesome would that be to look over and see that picture and be like, okay, I got this for 5 minutes. I can
you've inspired me to print some of our photos.
Yeah, you should.
That I only put on Instagram. Well, now I just there's so many reasons why if my family's listening to this, they'll be like, well, we have to get to Delaware anyways. But now I feel like we have to get to Delaware so that we can do a photo shoot with you.
Yeah, I'd love to photograph you and Brad.
Oh, yeah. No, it's going to happen. We literally go to Delaware. So it's going to happen.
You, the president, and Dave Grohl, like
right.
They're out. Well, yeah, they all frequent Delaware.
And also, for those of you who are on the East Coast, from what I understand, like Delaware is really easy to get to. Your states are all very small. You're not in California. You can get there in a couple hours. So Go do it. Okay, so we could talk about photography even more, and maybe it'll come up. But be it till you see it action as bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted steps people can do to be it till they see it. What do you have?
My friend Paige, who's like just one of these people that you talk to and you're like, wow, you're really smart. You just understand people. She said something to me years ago, and I don't even know if she meant it to have this much impact. But when I was talking about doing photography, I'm like, I don't know, Paige, I'd love to do it full time, but I blah, 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 blah. And she just matter of factly said, well, John, somebody has to do that. And like that stuck with me. Like, So anytime I think it's impossible for me to make this sale or make this much a year or for my band to make a CD, it's like, no, somebody has to. So why not you?
Yeah.
And if you want to get even, more positive, don't say someone has to, because that can have a negative connotation, but somebody gets to make a living from photography or make a living from Pilates, what they love. Why can't that be me?
Yeah.
So that's what I want people to really take away. Why not me? Yeah. And then when the negative voices start coming up, you tell them to shut up and just remember, why not me? Somebody has to.
Somebody has to. Why not you? John, I'm obsessed with you. You're amazing. You've got so much to offer this planet. We'll have to have you back. I'm sure Brad is like, you could have gone more into the Star Wars or something else, but,
tell Brad to call me. We'll nerd out.
I know.
Do some Legos or something.
I know. The day of our shoot, we'll just have to block out extra hours for time for that. Anyways. Okay, everyone, how are you going to use these, action items in your life? Right? Tell us by tagging John Mollura and tagging Beit Pod and letting us know. Also, do us a favor, send this to a friend. And you know what? If this had an impact on you, DM John or myself or text a friend what it was, because not only does it change people's lives, like it really does. There could be a sentence that like Paige said to John that changes and sticks with someone, but also it's literally how we change the world. Like we get rid of imposter syndrome and these feelings of being alone, one person at a time. So thank you everyone so much. And until next time, be it till you see it.
Thank you, Lesley.
Yeah.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Kroll. Our associate producer is Amanda Frattarelli.
Kevin Perez at Disenyo handles all of our audio editing.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer Jaira Mandal for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer Jay Perdoso for editing all the video each week so you can.
And to Angelina Herrico for transcribing each of our episodes so you can find them on our website. And finally, to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.